Hey, welcome to the Jameel Rawls show. And we're going to go over medical intelligence, and this is going to get into the psychological realm, dealing with forensic psychology. And this is a very serious area of the intelligence field. In the UK, you have groups like MI5, MI6. There's a medical intelligence department known as MI3, and those guys study psychology to the core. Talking about to the core. We're going to start off with some information about going into medicine. We're going to start off with a little esoteric spiritual view on it. First of all, go into Asclepius, right? Which is the symbol for Asclepius is the staff with the snake or serpent, if you will. A lot of people get Asclepius confused with the caduceus. The caduceus is two serpents or two snakes around the staff. And to be fair, in ancient Egypt, there were scientists and people involved in medicine in ancient Egypt who would use the caduceus in some ways. Now, in ancient Egypt, they did brain surgery. They did a bunch of other things. You can even see it with ancient Egyptian medical knives. If you go back and you look at ancient Egyptian medical knives, you can see that they had the same utensils as leading surgeons today. But the symbol of Asclepius is the actual symbol for medicine in today's world. The caduceus, though, symbolized life and death. One snake had the power to bite you and kill you. The only way to get out of that was anti-venom. So you needed snake venom to become anti-venom to get out of the death. So one snake symbolized life, one snake symbolized death. Now, the ancient Egyptians sometimes use that as symbolism for medicine, but most ancient Egyptians were a jack of all trades. You didn't have just a doctor or just a lawyer. In ancient Egypt, people practiced multiple areas of the professions of society. Okay, now we're going to get into the Asclepius was the god of healing, and Asclepius' daughter was Hygeia, which that's where hygiene comes from. So if your mother or your father or your husband or your wife say you smell a little ripe, your hygiene isn't going too well, I want you to take a shower or a bath, or at least wash your face, brush your teeth. I need your hygiene to be up. Remember, hygiene comes from Hygeia, the daughter of Asclepius. Just like Ramses' daughter, I believe Ramses II, his daughter was Scotia. And that's actually where the islands of Scotland come from Ramses' daughter Scotia. Okay. So, and then another thing about ancient Egypt, laughter was the best medicine for everything. So in ancient Egypt, they encouraged people to laugh and to be happy because that was usually the way to heal an individual the most. Okay. Now getting into more modern research of psychology or just the medical field in general, dealing with medicine. When you look at medical intelligence, there's an area known as interrogational psychology. And within interrogational psychology, instead of people studying psychopaths, as most criminologists do, or most homicide detectives do, or FBI profilers, or even self-taught profilers perhaps, it's very good to study the victims, the survivors of psychopathy. Studying a psychopath, you're only going to get so far. Studying a survivor of psychopathy, you're going to get very far. So, the relationships of the individuals had with psychopaths is very pivotal. What was the survivor or the victim's relationship with the psychopath? Okay. Dating, married. If the individual's married to a psychopath, that they are dating a psychopath. Or if you don't want to use the word psychopath, perpetrator, you can see how, if it's a crime that's been committed. Okay. And then if you're doing research on a perpetrator or just for psychology purpose, just psychopathy, you're going to want a developing assessment. At the core, what is this person about? Most psychopaths are risk takers. And to be honest, if somebody has the qualities of a psychopath, that doesn't mean they're going to get involved in any illegal activity. Because there's people who are there's people who are homicidal maniacs who have the same qualities as somebody who works for the ATF who's on the bomb squad. Somebody could grow up who's a risk taker, they have very little empathy or feeling, but they might use that for a constructive, positive, means to their life. They may join the bomb squad and help the terrorist task force defuse bombs. Somebody else might take that and go out and go on a crime spree or whatever. Okay. Then you're going to look at a constellation of traits, emotional traits. You're going to look at shallow emotions. And this goes down to, you can even look, a lot of people, I think, in today's world, you can look at corporations and say corporations tend to be psychopathic. There's a movie called American Psycho with Christian Bale, which is one of my favorite movies. Christian Bale also played in a really good movie called Swing Kids, which depicted Adolf Hitler Youth. But in essence, the movie American Psycho showed how on the outside, the mask that the psychopath wears, their sensationalism gets them through life. Christian Bale in the movie depicted a psychopath going to work every day, had a good group of friends, everything was going fine. But in their real life, in his real life, he was butchering people and doing very horrible things. And because of the dynamics of the social circle he was in, he was allowed to get away with it. Okay, so let me see. And psychopathy can exist within groups, groupthink and group mindsets. Oftentimes, people don't hear this often, but there's a such thing known as state occupational crimes committed by individuals who get together in a corporation or in a government office, or they're working for, it could be at a police department, a group think. Hey, we're together. We got to help each other through this. And that could lead to hazards. That could lead to unprofessionalism. That could lead to you see in the Soviet Union, or you see in Nazi Germany, or in Cambodia. And then social psychology, social influence, and conformity. This gets into some good stuff. A lot of this gets into primate research. This is going into primate research. This gets into the biology of individual, something called the reward circuit, where an individual gets a certain amount of dopamine and serotonin based on their behavior. So the individual is rewarded for committing a good act or an honest act. They usually will tend to keep doing that naturally, even when there is no reward. If an individual feels they're going to be rewarded for being dishonest or being deceptive or mischievous, they're going to continue to keep making that same act. You can look, I hate to keep saying the German thing because there's a lot of examples in America, but you can look at the Nazis and see that people were willing to keep committing the same immoral acts or illegal acts based on the stimulus they were getting out of them, the dopamine they were getting from committing acts. You can see this in the Deep South, with the Ku Klux Klan, Chicago. You know, Chicago had a lot of corruption in the early 1900s. You can look and see, you know, I'm sure most people can look at their family unit and see dishonest behavior based on the stimulus they're getting out of it. People do it just in relationships between husband and wife, boyfriend and girlfriend. And so studying the rat cocaine experiment is a good way to investigate sociopathy. And that gets into the inferiority complex, because some individuals constantly need approval. Feeling that they did the right thing isn't enough. They need approval. That's why people get involved with street gangs or other organizations similar. This deals with social influence. And now getting back into chimps. Some chimps will make decisions that are pro-social, meaning this gets into primate research. But some chimps during primate research will make decisions that were for the benefit of the other chimps around that chimp. Chimps who are about the well-being of others. A chimp will make a decision that will affect the other chimps for the best, even if he doesn't get rewards. Some chimps won't do that if they don't get a reward. Feelings of importance, value, reward, dopamine. And so the bottom line is dealing with primates and morality. And people see that if you ever go online and you start studying chimps, you can look at cooperation experiments, working together, empathy, synchronization. And there was an experiment done by Japanese scientists in Okinawa called the 100 monkey effect. And there were a group of islands, and they taught one small group of monkeys, a set of things to do. Then miraculously, on all the other islands around that island, the monkeys picked up on the activity and started mimicking it. How did the monkeys on the other island know? See, this gets into quantum intelligence and quantum physics, dealing with energy and hyperspace. It gets into too much. That's borderline parapsychology right there. This is interesting, dealing with medical intelligence. To make an individual, at least psychologically, fit the purpose of the company or the business or the goals of the operation, you would want the individual to be mentally tough and connected to a purpose, a feeling of importance, self-control, mental response, emotional response. This gets a little bit out of studying Navy clinical psychology. And naval science is very respected. And you can get into... This does get a little bit into foreign intelligence, dealing with ideological subversion, espionage, dealing with the defectors, just mainly coming out of the Cold War. ideological subversion. That's something. Okay, and now we're going to get I'm going to come back on that. I'm going to get into something having to do with the 100 monkey effect on parapsychology.